and that's what it says on the program. So I have to talk about human divinity. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. If I were doing this with a group of scientists, we would talk about human biology, we would talk about neurons, DNA, cell membranes. I want to do something different with you to honor you in the time that we have together, because there's something inside of you that cannot be separated from every event that you're seeing happening in the world around you. And that brings tremendous relevance to this conversation. There's something inside of you that is rarely spoken about in mainstream. We're not teaching our kids. It is so ancient. It is so rare. It is so beautiful. It is so precious that nations will go to war with nations to keep you distracted from knowing what this is within you. Economies will be collapsed. Pandemics will be unleashed. Climate will be engineered, all as diversions, because what you hold inside of you is so rare and precious that it is the essence of your very existence in this world. And that something is human divinity. So let's define divinity right off the bat. Many people link it with religion, and I can see why, because there's schools of divinity that make that connection. The definition of divinity, however, has nothing to do with religion, and you may be surprised if you haven't heard this. The definition is the ability to transcend perceived limitations, and that's it. The ability to transcend means to become more than. Perceived, listen to this, perceived limitations, you and I are probably living limits in our lives that aren't even real. They're limits that have been imposed upon us or that we have been indoctrinated to accept by our families, well-intentioned families, friends, our culture, our community, our society, science, obsolete science, religion, all tell us who we are and what it is that we can and cannot do. And I want to tell you, if we had longer, the new discoveries and the best science of the modern world are blowing the doors off of those limits. But I'm not going to talk to you about that part today. I'm going to do this from a little bit different perspective. And to begin, I'm going to go back to 1946. Something happened in 1946. Is that a long time ago? For some of you, it's before you came into this world. But it's relevant to what's happening right now. 1946, in an area known as Qumran in the Dead Sea of Israel, a series of caves were discovered. Maybe you've talked about these in some of the programs here. The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. How many have heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls? Okay. There were 11 caves. Actually, they're still finding them. 2023. They found additional documents last year. They're still finding these things. 11 caves were discovered, and in those caves were vases about 2.5 to 3 feet tall that were sealed, and they contained the oldest records of the Old Testament, the oldest unedited records of the Old Testament, before the church was able to condense and rearrange those documents. Just to come full circle, it was in 1945, the oldest records of the New Testament had been found in Egypt, a little village called Nag Hammadi. And so you've probably heard of the Nag Hammadi library that contains those. Well, here's where this gets really interesting. Those documents were discovered, Dead Sea Scrolls, 1946 and on into 1947. They were not allowed to be released to the public until 1991, 45 years. And I was a member of an organization called BAR, Biblical Archaeology Review. And a man named Herschel Shanks almost single-handedly freed those to the public. And you have to ask yourself, what could possibly be in a document, 2,500-year-old document, that would warrant the time and the energy and the money and the legal wranglings and the political wranglings to prevent the information in a 2,500-year-old text from being made public? The answer to that is what links your divinity and my divinity to the events of the world. And you can't make this up. This is the way the universe works. It was in the first cave, in the first vase that was found in the first cave, and the first scroll that came out of the first vase in the first cave that has the answer to what I'm sharing with you now. That first scroll, about 12 columns, no, 19 columns. It is called the War Scroll, W-A-R. And the War Scroll, I'm going to use the exact words. The War Scroll describes an ancient battle that began before you and I, the first of our kind, ever set foot on this earth. It's an ancient battle, and it's playing out in our lives today, right now. It is a battle in the text. The scroll literally reads, it is a battle between what they called 2,500 years ago the sons of darkness and the sons of light. Now, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and a woman was offended because she thought the feminine was excluded. 2,500 years ago, they weren't talking about gender the way we are today. So sons of darkness, sons of light is all-inclusive. It's human. It's humankind, and I want to share that with you. That battle you know today is a battle between good and evil. And that battle is more than a metaphor. I'll tell you, when I was born and raised in a rural community in northern Missouri, we used to talk about good and evil, and it was kind of a joke. You know, there'd be a little red devil with on your shoulder, pitchfork, horns, long tail, and an angel over here, and they're always going back and forth about what should and should not happen. Evil is real, and I think you all know that. And as we go through history, it literally defines the events of this planet that we live on. Sometimes it's more present than others. It ebbs and it flows. We happen to be living a period of time, the close of a number of cycles, where we are seeing more prevalence of evil. What is the purpose of the battle? The purpose of the battle between good and evil is to deny you your divinity. The purpose of the battle is to veil the divinity that is available to you. What is our divinity? Let's talk about divinity. Divinity is what gives us our humanness. Your imagination, your creativity, your innovation, those are expressions of divinity. Your empathy, your sympathy, your compassion, those are expressions. Your ability to love without fear, and to forgive for the sake of forgiving rather than forgiving expecting something in return. You know, often we forgive and we look around and say, you know, who just saw me forgive? Because you want the accolades for that. Pure divinity is the essence of our humanness. Divinity is where you find your power in this earth realm that Liz so beautifully described. In this earth realm, you need a body to express your divinity. Other realms may be very, very different. But as long as you're here, this is the vessel. That's why that song was perfect. And that's why your meditation was perfect. And we didn't plan this. This is unscripted. It just worked that way. Your body is the key. The healthier you are, the clearer you can express the power of your divinity. So I want to give you something that is concrete and real and tangible. Because in the world that we live in right now, there are forces, there are organizations, there are individuals that will stop at nothing to deny you and me our divinity. Let's give a definition to what that is. Evil, now, more than a metaphor, evil can be defined as anything that denies human divinity. Anything that denies you the ability to imagine freely and to create and innovate. Anything that denies you the ability to heal your own body. Your body knows what to do, the intelligence of your body. Anything that denies you the ability to love without fear and to forgive. These are all expressions of evil. And now you have a benchmark of what that evil really is, more than just a metaphor. Well, I'm saying this to you today because there's a concerted effort to replace our bodies with technology. And I think you're all seeing that. And it's happening in ways that are not so obvious, and you are going to see a growing momentum in the next 5 years. You're going to be enticed, you're going to be encouraged, In some cases, you may be mandated to make choices in your life to replace the gift of your humanness with something outside of your body. AI, artificial intelligence, computer chips in the brain, chemicals in the blood, sensors in the body. You all know what I'm talking about here. And we're going to be told that it's for our benefit, that we're safer, that we are healthier, that life is easier. And I want you to have the information to be able to make the choices on your own. I would never attempt to convince or persuade you. I want you to know what it is you're giving away. Because when we give our humanness away to technology, we can't get it back. When you replace natural biological systems with artificial technology, what happens is the body does what bodies do really well. The body morphs and adapts to accept that new technology in the body, and you are no longer what you were before. It's not like you can try it and then go back to what you were. You can't go back because there's nothing to go back to. You now have become a very, very different form of human. So the whole concept of human divinity is directly linked to your body, to the temple of your body. And you know, if you're biblically inclined, I think it's 1 Corinthians 3:16, I believe, that literally says, know ye not that your body is the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells within you. And a lot of people take that as a metaphor. When I was working in the corporations, during the Cold War, my job, it was a senior computer systems designer in the defense industry, and I was writing pattern recognition software. The first time I saw human DNA come across my screen, I could see it wasn't random. There were patterns in that DNA. And through a longer process than I can describe right now, literally, this isn't a metaphor, literally, those patterns now have been decoded. You carry a message in the DNA of your body that was given to you the very first time the first of our kind set foot on this earth. We still don't know where we came from. Scientists don't know. We're not the product of Darwin's idea of evolution. Now, as a degree geologist, I want to be clear. I believe in evolution. I've seen it in the fossil record, plants, animals, insects. It breaks down when it comes to us. 200,000 years ago, the first of our kind appeared on Earth. Scientists agree with that. We are the product of a series of mysterious mutations. Scientists say they cannot happen in nature. They cannot happen naturally. Who or what gave us those mutations that make our divinity possible? Well, the answer is encoded in every cell of your body. The average human, I guess you and I are the average height, so the average human has about 50 trillion cells in the human body. And in the nucleus of every one of those cells is a message encoded into the DNA. That message literally reads, this isn't in a metaphor, when you go through the mathematic links, the message in your DNA literally reads the words, God eternal within the body. Literally, God eternal within the body. Doesn't say who God is, doesn't say where God comes from. That's up to us to figure out. But what it tells us is that we're not what we've been told. We're more than we've been led to believe in the scientific methodology. And it tells us, when we look at those ancient texts that say that we are the temple, the Spirit of God. When I have had the opportunity to explore ancient civilizations from Greece and India and Nepal and Egypt and through the Andes, Bolivia and Peru and others, whenever a temple is built, the temples are always built in layers. You have the innermost sanctum that holds the deepest secrets and the greatest mysteries. And that innermost sanctum is called the Holy of Holies. Are you with me on that? Holy of Holies. If we are a temple, do we have a Holy of Holies? We have not one, you've got 50 trillion. Holy of Holies. Because in the nucleus of every cell is a coded message that says you are God eternal within the body. And by the way the name of God is spelled in your DNA is identical to those 2,500-year-old texts. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So when we begin thinking of human divinity, now we come back and we look at the world. What's happening in the world, we're being encouraged to exchange our biology, the gift of our body that holds our divinity. We're being encouraged to give it away in exchange for the logic and the efficiency and the speed of a computer chip or of an artificial intelligence. We don't even know fully what it means to be human, and we're on the precipice. We're about to give our humanness away before we even know what it means to be human. What the best scientists of our world are telling us is within 5 years, that's not far, within 5 years, unless we change the way we think, unless we change the trajectory that you and I are allowing in our lives and our world, very probably we are the last generation of pure humans that the earth will ever know. We will be some hybrid of some form of technology in our bodies with the biology, the gift of our biology. And it happens in ways that we may not even be aware. That's the really interesting part. You are not always even aware when you're giving your humanness away. So my hope today, in the brief time that we have here, is that I want you to have, at the very least, a deeper appreciation for your humanness and what it means to be human at a time when the human body, we're teaching our young kids that our humanness is flawed, that we are a flawed, weak, vulnerable form of life. And we need something outside of us to be the best version of ourselves. And I want to tell you right now, as a scientist, if I had more time, I'd show you the examples. I have worked on some of the most amazing technology, that things like SDI, Star Wars Defense Initiative, advanced lasers, communications, radar systems, and more. And I have yet to see anything built outside of our bodies that doesn't mimic what you and I already do in the cells of our bodies. Every cell in your body, every cell is a tiny circuit, creates 0.07 volts of electrical potential. Every cell in your body mimics transistors, resistors, capacitors. Your DNA, literally, the computer journals are now telling us that human DNA is a fractal antenna. What does that mean? Well, an antenna tunes to a signal. Fractal antenna means you're tuning to many signals across many bandwidths simultaneously. What are you pulling in? And what are you sending out? Because we are in direct communication with the world around us and beyond on the quantum level. All of this is possible because now scientists are beginning to look at the human body not as an organism in biology, but they're looking at us as an IT, information technology system. And when you look at the human body from an IT perspective, it's a mind blower. My hope is that when we begin to think of ourselves differently, that we find less need, maybe less urgency to bring that artificial technology into our lives, into our bodies. There's a glare, I can't see the clock. How much time do I have? Seriously. 11 minutes. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So does that make sense, what I'm saying? Does it make sense to you all? So what we're not being told, we're being, the marketing is making it look really slick, really sexy to bring this technology into our bodies. Between now and the year 2030, there are organizations and powers and governments and forces who are telling us they want to remake the world in a way that we've never seen. And we've all heard about that before, but here's what's different. To remake that world, they need to remake the world inside of us as well. And so what I am saying to you, now we go back to the Dead Sea Scrolls. The purpose of this ancient battle is to deny us our divinity, because divinity is where you find your power. Divinity is what frees you from the bonds and the shackles of fear. When you embrace the deep truth of your own divinity, it frees you from the fear of being vulnerable and small and powerless. And that makes it difficult to accelerate the agendas when you are in your power. Does that make sense if I say it that way? But there's another piece of this. It's a beautiful piece. When you talk about an ancient battle, one of the first things people say is, well, how do you win? You don't. You do not win this battle. And let me tell you why. The old idea of a conflict is force against force. That's obsolete. That's what keeps us stuck in the ancient battle, that keeps us hurt and suffering and small and powerless. You don't want to win, you want to triumph. You want to triumph. How do you triumph in this ancient battle? You don't have to fight. You live the best version of yourself. You live the best version of your life. You imagine like there's no tomorrow. Let that imagination run. You create, you innovate, you share those innovations with other people freely. You love without the fear of what happens if that love isn't successful. You forgive. You feel the feelings of empathy for another, for our brothers and sisters, and sympathy and compassion, and we act. Those are all expressions of human divinity. When we live the deep truth of our divinity, we have triumphed because the battle between good and evil was not successful in denying our divinity. That is what this is all about. That's what this is all about. So you're going to see everything you're seeing, from the war in Ukraine and Israel to collapsing financial systems to corrupt politics. They're all important. Please don't allow them to become the diversions that keep you all spun up in the fear of what happens if they don't go the way that you're expecting them to go. Because that is an expression of evil as well. Evil plays out. There's technological evil, biological evil, social media evil. When the algorithms mislead us into making choices based on false information that separates us from our own families and our friends and our loved ones and our communities, and you all are seeing this happen, that's a form of evil. So it's more than a metaphor. It's up for us right now. And this is a joyous opportunity to simply live the best version of ourselves. You don't have to fight. Just be. Be fearlessly. Don't be afraid of those changes, because you're seeing a world that's trying to change. It's going to change, and we're going to get through all this together. We'll probably come back and do a little talking here when we do, and we'll celebrate. But here's what I want to leave you with, and we're going to do a little process here. We're going to get through all this. I just turned 70 this year. In my 70 years, I've never seen, well, please, I mean, I made it. No, I'm just saying, in my 70 years, I've never seen the world like we're seeing it right now. We're going to get through this, but here's the spiritual component that I want you to think about. The question is, what do we become in the presence of all the things that were being shown in the world? What do we allow the events of the world to make us into? Do we allow the events of the world to drive us to the primal instincts of hate and fear and revenge and suspicion for our brothers and our sisters and our loved ones and our families? And if we do, then you simply recognize that, discern, and say, I recognize this, and this isn't who I am. That's your invitation to become more than what it is that you've been led to become. Everything I'm saying in here is not going to be supported when we leave in the mainstream, and it may not be supported in your families. And the real spiritual test, in my experience, is living the truth of your divinity in the presence of a world that doesn't always support that truth. To do it with kindness, not to make someone else wrong, simply to be the best version of yourself. Does that make sense if I say it that way? All right. So I'm going to invite you in the few moments I have here. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes if you haven't already. Just close your eyes. Allow your awareness to move from the world around you to the world within you. In this beautiful place that we've created for ourselves, this sacred circle, this sacred family of hearts, lifetimes that have come together in this room. I'm going to invite you to touch your heart center gently in a way that's comfortable for you, because your awareness will always go to the part of your body where you feel the touch. I'm doing the same thing right here. Modern science now tells us that the human heart is linked to a field of intelligence that is not bound by the laws of physics. Your heart speaks to a field of memory, of information, of love, of divinity that is not bound by time and space. In the time we have together, this moment, I'm going to invite you through your heart to ask. Ask the deep truth that doesn't go through the ego. It comes from the heart. Begin with the words, my heart, silently to yourself, my heart. My heart. My heart, what do you need from me right now? My heart. What do you need from me right now? And just allow that answer to come to you. Allow yourself to be present with that answer. It'll come quickly. It's usually brief, concise. Second question. My heart. My heart, do I love myself enough to accept the power and the responsibility of my divinity? My heart. Do I love myself enough to accept the power and the responsibility that comes with that power of living my divinity in this earth realm? And the last question. My heart. My heart, what is the ancient wound that I've come to this place to heal, to free the divinity within me? My heart. What is the ancient wound that I carry in this life, in this body? The secret wound that I may have hidden from myself. My heart. What is the ancient wound that I've come to heal, to free the power of my divinity? Allow those answers to come to you. Be present. Don't chase the answer. Make a mental note of what those answers are, how they feel to you. As you feel complete with that, I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath, inhale together. As you release that breath, gently become present in the sacred circle that we've created for ourselves here on this ancient and sacred land where it is safe to heal. That's why we've come here. Gently begin to open your eyes. Did you get answers? Yeah, well, if we had more time, we would work with those answers. But I want you to have those answers, because whatever those answers mean to you, that's where your workshop begins. That's the workshop of life. When you seek the books, the self-help, the reading, your own prayers, your own meditation, what is that ancient wound? We all carry the ancient wounds. If we didn't, we wouldn't be here. And my prayer for you is, as we leave here and we go into the world, I don't know what's going to happen between now and the end of the year and the beautiful new year ahead of us. I know that we're each going to be tested. And I don't want you to be afraid of the tests. I want you to know that there's something inside of you that truly is rare and precious and sacred. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful. It's the reason for everything you're seeing happen in the world. And when you begin to look at life from that perspective, I think those things take on a different view. The last thing, when you feel that you are powerless in this world, I'm going to invite you, whatever it is life brings to your doorstep, health, abundance, lack of health, relationships, geophysical changes, where you live, what you do, whatever the problem is, the challenge that comes to you, ask this question in your heart: how does God eternal within the body deal with this issue? Not my small, fearful self. God eternal, because you are the temple of the living God. And your DNA tells you that. And that's what I wanted to say to you today. I'll close with that. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. I love you all, and I'm proud. I want to say I'm proud and honored to be part of your community. I don't see you all that often, and I'm not in town all that often. And when I'm here, this is the best place in the world to be, man. I got to tell you. I travel all over the world. It's all beautiful, it's all good, and we have a beautiful global family, but this is home for me. And I think it's home for you too. And thank you for making it the home that Martha and I are able to come back to so that we can feel at peace and heal. God bless. Beautiful holidays. Thank you.